Saying we had started academic writing, and in academic writing, we need to understand how to write, especially like essays and reports. So that was for the previous time, and of course, this topic was finished on writing essays. So I just want to point out to something that is very, very important. So as you get to write your essay, we know from high school knowledge in grade 12, of course, we had done this before. We have got different types of essays. Okay. So what I really want to talk about is when you are getting to write, is it your essay or I don't know? It can be a narration, a description, or anything like that. So as you get to write what you are writing, the first thing that you are going to be able to do is, you see, you need to make sure that your writing is in a logical manner and in the same way every standard essay should be written. So as you get to prepare your essay, the first thing is you have to choose the topic. You analyze the question and define key terms. Like, this is the topic that I've chosen. So analyze what kind of question have you been asked. Maybe write about the causes of this. So you get to analyze that topic and you define key terms. Like, in this topic, what are the key terms that I need to be able to find out on? You are also supposed to prepare an outline. How are you going to write your essay? You are going to locate and evaluate resources, like where am I going to get the data that I'm going to use when writing, because in academic writing you don't write things that is from your own brain. You get to write things from a research. For example, they've given you an assignment, so it's different from formal writing where you can just write even when what you are thinking of, or just maybe popular writing where you just get to write anything that you want, like the things we get to post on Facebook. So in academic writing, you get to make a well and good research. So after you get to locate your resources and evaluate them, and then you're going to organize notes, that is researching, and then you're going to make your final essay plan. You now write a rough draft, like you just be writing without going through. You're just writing what is coming from your brain. And then after you've just written a draft, you can now, from the draft that you've written, you can now do what? You can you can have now a proof reading or editing, which is very, very important. So you need to get to edit your work, because remember, when you are writing, you are just writing what was coming from your brain. You are not correcting, you are not paying attention to the commas, full stops, and those things. That's why you need to proofread and also to edit. After you get to edit like that and proofread, that's when now you write the final draft. The final draft is now what has been already proofread and edited. So you proofread, you go through reading to check for mistakes in your writing. Okay. And now when you get to write your final draft, and then you get also to put references and citations. In every academic writing, a reference is very important. Like, they need to know, where have you gotten the data that you've submitted? Is it from recent information or not? All right, so after understanding that, so this just explains you choosing a topic, analyzing the question. Now, on just analyzing the question, this is what I want to talk about, just to make sure that something is made clear. So when you get to analyze the question, ensure you understand the issue or the problem that must be addressed. Very, very important. You understand the issue, because you might be good at writing, but you're not answering the question. Okay, you are not answering the question that they've asked you. You might be having a good vocabulary, you know how to follow paragraphs and all those things, but you should be able to what? Should be able also to get to answer the question or the problem that is at hand. Now, as you get to analyze the question, I want to talk about these words. You need to pay attention to three types of words. We have got direction words, content words, and delimiting words. Very, very important. Now, what are direction words in a question? So direction words are words that tell you what to do with a topic. For example, you have got a topic, the topic can say discuss about, or discuss. Do you discuss about? You talk about and then you discuss something. So discuss the causes of substance abuse. So that is a direction word, discuss. Or compare. Maybe compare this and this. So this is very important to understand. This question came in last year's exam, so you need to understand what these words mean. Okay, so direction words are just words that are going to tell you what you are supposed to do. Is it to discuss? Is it to compare? Is it to argue? Is it to debate or something like that? Is it to narrate? Okay, and then you have got content words. Now, content words are words that are going to indicate the area on which the essay will focus, the subject areas or the topic. Like, what is the thing that the subject is going to focus on? Do you want to focus on maybe advantages? Do you want to focus on disadvantages? Do you want to focus on importance, or you want to focus on the results? So where do you want to focus on? After that, now you have got delimiting words. Delimiting words are words that limit the essay. For example, just write within 10 sentences. Though just that 10 sentences is a delimiting word because it is limiting the way you are going to write your essay. For example, let's consider this sentence that you've been given. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
kindly slow down a bit.
All right. Okay, now consider this sentence that you've been given here an example. Discuss the effects of COVID-19 pandemic in the academic life of undergraduate natural science students in Zambia in 1000 words. So if you look at this sentence given, you need to identify which words are content words, which words are delimiting words, and which words are direction words. Remember, content is what really you want to discuss or what really you want to talk about. And then delimiting words are words that are going to limit your writing maybe to a certain group, certain words, or certain place. And then direction words are words that are going to tell you what to do. Is it to narrate? Is it to describe or to do what? So from here you can see discuss. So just the word discuss, this is what a direction word. So in this sentence or in this question, the direction word is what? Discuss. Okay. And then content word, what do you want to talk about? What's a content? So discuss effect. So I want to talk about the effect of COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, that is the content, the effect of COVID-19 pandemic. So a content words effect of COVID-19 pandemic, that is what you really want to talk about. All right, now what of delimiting words? What words are limiting your writing so that you not talk about anything that you get to think of? So it is in the life of undergraduate natural science student in Zambia. You've seen they've limited us not just to write about the effect of COVID-19 pandemic or for anyone, but only for undergraduate natural sciences students in Zambia. So they've limited us first to undergraduate natural sciences students. Not only that, not in any country, but just in Zambia. Apart from that, they've also limited us to only 1000 words. So these you are able to see are what? Delimiting words. The academic life of undergraduate natural science student in the University of Zambia and 1000 words. These are delimiting words. Does this make sense? Do you have a question?
No, makes
Okay,
sense.
good. Very, very important. I wish I had the paper for last year. Now, I don't have, would have gone through it. All right, so we are supposed to do critical thinking since we already finished this. So I just wanted to spot out that we need to understand critical thinking. You know, when you are an academician, you need to be a critical thinker. Like when before you get to start writing your composition, you need to think critically. Now, critical thinking is applied in so many ways. So we're going to understand all those ways. But now we need first to understand when you're talking about critical thinking, we have got Paul and Elder. These get to define critical thinking as the art of analyzing and evaluating thoughts, processes with a view of improving them. So that is critical thinking. Okay, you get to analyze and evaluate thoughts. Okay, it's just not thoughts but thought processes. Why are you evaluating them? Why are you analyzing them? You want to improve them. For example, I give you something. I tell you, no, if you say uh, 2 plus 2 is 5. Well, you don't just get to accept there and then. You get what? Analyze and evaluate. If I tell you that the derivative, if you'd say dy over dx of 1 is 0, you don't just accept and say, okay, that's the answer because the teacher has said. You get to analyze, why is it that the derivative of a constant is a 0? So doing that is what we call critical thinking. Now, critical thinking here, they've defined it as the art. Okay, art. When you're talking about art, not everyone has got every kind of art. Okay, some people are artists. Some people are artists in some way, others are not. For example, there are others who are good at writing, others are good at what? Singing, others are good maybe at making poetry. That's art. And even just composition writing is an art. So meaning that not everyone is good at that. So that is what critical thinking is. Just being able to analyze and evaluate thoughts in order for you to what? To improve them. Okay. Now, what are the components of critical thinking? One thing, critical thinking gives due consideration to one. A critical thinker is going to give due consideration to evidence. What evidence is available for me to be able to judge? Because you just don't get to give what you think. Maybe this is not correct because I think like this. Now you need to have evidence. For example, you find someone, who is dead. Okay, someone is dead. Now because they are near this house, you just get to conclude it's the owner of this house who have killed them. No, that's not being a critical thinker. Critical thinker, you get to deal with evidence. What is the evidence available? Okay, for example, perhaps you find that there is even a gun there or something like that. So you get to gather all the evidence. And then a critical thinker also, one component of critical thinking is the context of judgment. Okay, the context of judgment. Now, to understand all these criteria for making, all these we are just talking, these are just components. Like when you're a critical thinker, one thing that it involves is the evidence and the context of judgment, the criteria for making judgment. What criteria are you using to make judgment? All those are components of what critical thinking. Like, what really are you using? Okay, when you come in medicine, we are going to tell you about maleficence and beneficence and non-maleficence. Okay, beneficence, non-maleficence, or non-maleficent. Now, what do these two terms mean? Beneficence means do good. If you talk of non-maleficent, don't do harm. So when you are making a judgment, what criteria are you using? What we really mean, because if you consider, you might say beneficence and non-maleficence is the same thing, because to do good means not to do harm. But what this means is, when you're talking about beneficence, for example, if you are studying to be a doctor or maybe a pharmacist, don't aim at doing harm. Okay, make sure that you to do good, make sure that your core work or the thing that is near you is just to make sure that you get to save the life of a patient. That is the only thing that you are thinking about. Okay, it is to do good. So you don't have anything in your mind other than to do good. Now, non-maleficent means to do no harm. For example, you are performing a surgery and someone dies. Your aim was not to kill that person, but he has just died because it happened. So that is non-maleficent. Your aim wasn't to what? To do bad, but it just happened. Okay. So this is the meaning of these two terms. So what criteria for making judgment are you getting to use? That is also a component of critical thinking. For example, uh, you are going to talk about why there are some kind of fighting, or there are kinds of conflicts. So when you get to understand that topic just in DME, you are going to find that what is considered wrong to some people is not wrong to others. For example, others are going to take, there are two theories that define what is wrong and what is good. Others are going to define what is wrong as anything that doesn't give you pleasure. Okay, anything that doesn't give you pleasure is wrong. Others are going to define what is wrong as anything that is against a rule. Now, for example, a rule that has been put is anyone who drinks has done wrong. So if you drink, according to some people, then you have done wrong. But to the other people, if you drink, as long as it makes you happy, then you have done what is right. So I hope you get that. So that is the criteria for making judgment. Just trying to explain that. And the methods or techniques used to make judgment. All these are components. What methods or techniques are you using to make judgments? And understanding of the nature of the problem and the questions at hand. That also involves critical thinking. What is the nature of the problem that is there? What is the question? You get to understand the question which is present. So when you get to do all this, and then you're going to be able to think critically. Now, why critical thinking? Why do you need to be a critical thinker? Well, a critical thinker is very important. Critical thinking is not only about logic. We are going to understand what logic is. Remember, we are saying critical thinking is just the art of analyzing. So it's not just about logic. It is also about clarity, credibility, accuracy, precision, relevance, depth and breadth, significance and fairness. So it's not just about being logic. So in other words, critical thinking is thinking outside the box. And well, when do you need to become a critical thinker? Because there are a lot of situations, some things you just need to get what people are saying. Other things you just don't need to accept what people are saying directly. So you should be a critical thinker when it comes to making judgments. Very, very important. Because if you don't think critically and you make a judgment, for example, from I think that should be grades 8, see, judge, act. Before you get to make a judgment, we said see, judge, and then act. So this is just critical thinking. You are going to see, but before you get to act, you need to what? To judge. And well, this judgment involves you don't just need to judge. How do you judge? You need to think critically. How am I going to make this judgment? You are going to now analyze and evaluate the situation at hand. So critical thinking is also important when it comes to making decisions. You want to take A or B, and especially decisions that involve a dilemma. For example, you have got thieves which have come to attack you, and then they say you have got two children. Choose one or both dies. So you see such a situation, you want to make a decision. So there is need for a critical thinking at that point. Choose one of your children or both are going to die. How do you even get to choose? So you need to get to think critically before you decide. Otherwise, if you make any wrong decision, something bad might happen. Critical thinking is also very important when it comes to solving a problem. And also when you must figure out what to believe or what to do, you need to think critically and do so in a reasonable and reflective way. You want to know, what should I believe? Okay, you have got your mother here, okay, your mother here, and your husband here. Now you found these two people arguing. This one, you even know that your mom talks. She's saying no, it's your husband. Your husband is saying no, it's mom. Now you want to choose what to believe. So you need to think critically from what you know, from what you're able to see for you to be able to judge. Okay, so critical thinking encourages one person to see each issue from as many perspectives as possible. Just don't look at one area. We're going to look at so many areas. That's what critical thinking involves. So before we proceed, do you have any question?
No,
Is it making sense or it is complicating?
it's making sense. Just
Okay.
need to take some notes down.
All right. Now, what's the importance of critical thinking? Well, critical thinking is an important element of all professional fields and academic disciplines. When you are in any academic sphere, you will need to be a critical thinker. Trust me, very soon you are going to be handling questions such that, especially biology questions, such that all the answers, all the things that you've read in the notes, they seem to be part of the answers, and it's a multiple choice question, and they just want to choose one answer. That is when you realize that critical thinking is very, very important. You have got four options, and all of them, you've ever read them somewhere. So you need now to be a critical thinker at this point. All right. So students at the tertiary level of learning are encouraged to use logic and critical thinking. One, to broaden their understanding. You are encouraged to use logic and critical thinking, not just to broaden your understanding. For example, you want to have more understanding about a certain subject. Instead of you just being able to accept what they've told you, you need to think critically. Apart from that, you need to use logic and critical thinking for you to be able to interpret information. Okay, because some things will not be making sense there and then. For you to be able to make sense out of them, you need to be a critical thinker. You evaluate the information, you analyze it, and also to make justified conclusions. I like the word justified because most of the times we make conclusions which are not justified because someone has said that man is bad, you say he is bad. No, that is not a justified conclusion. So you need critical thinking for you to be able to make a justified conclusion. Okay. You also need critical thinking to have the ability to analyze, evaluate, explain, and restructure one's thinking. Okay, if someone is thinking in this way to restructure, or you are thinking in this way to restructure your thought, you need to have this ability of critical thinking. So in critical thinking, we have got what we call facts and opinions. So academic writing requires the writer to distinguish between facts and opinion. When you're talking about facts, of course, we know that this is what is true, what has actually happened, actually, not in the brain, but in reality, and what has been observed, verified, and proven by research. That is what we call as a fact. Okay. Now, an opinion is a statement of a person's perception, what you think, or your feeling, or your belief. That's what we call as an opinion. It is just a simple value judgment. Now, be very careful here because they'll bring a statement to ask you if it is an opinion or a belief. And I saw a question in the exam. It was in last year's exam. It was trick. It was trick, and they had put prejudice, opinion, belief. You can even fail to make a good conclusion. Which one is the answer? Again, that takes us back to critical thinking. So you need to think critically. Which one is going to be the answer? Is this statement an opinion? Is it a belief? Or is it a prejudice? So you need to get to know that. So since we've said critical thinking doesn't just involve logic. Now, what is logic? Okay. So Copy et al. In 2016 defines logic as a procedures and principles of reasoning concerned with making a distinction between correct and incorrect. Okay. So just procedures and principles of reasoning concerned with making a distinction between correct and wrong reasoning. Reasoning, we are going to also talk about reasoning. So what principles are you going to use? What procedures are you going to use? Okay, for you to make a distinction or to differentiate that, okay, this conclusion is correct, this conclusion is wrong. So just those principles and procedures that you get to use, that is what we call logic. So logic facilitates the writer's or student's ability to procure correct information, evaluate resources, claims, arguments to arrive at truth, identify inconsistencies in argument and logical fallacies, and also construct arguments validated by rational inferences. So an inference is a conclusion that you get to make. So we are saying logic is going to facilitate, okay, your ability to procure correct information. In other words, it's going to help you to make sure that you get to procure correct information. You get to evaluate resources. The resource is where you get information, for example, in a research or a claim. Someone is saying, is claiming something. You get to evaluate that to make sure that there is a truth in that claim or in an argument. Okay, and also logic is going to help you to identify inconsistencies in argument, because some people are going to be arguing against something, but at the same time they're also supporting that same thing because they don't have a lot of data about that same thing, especially religious arguments or political arguments. You see, if a person is arguing in this manner, if they run out of ideas, they start supporting this point, but they want to turn again, like in that way, you see. So there are some inconsistencies. You believe in this thing, but at the same time, you're more like you don't believe. Okay. So logic also gets to help us to construct arguments validated by rational references. Okay, you construct, you are in an argument. What I mean by argument, this is not an argument which involves fighting. For example, you are in a debate. Now you want to present a debate, an argument. In this case, we're going to call it a debate, but from rational, sensible conclusions. Okay, that is logic that is going to help you to get to do that. Now, since we are saying logic,
Yeah.
yes.
Kindly explain the last point, that construct arguments. That one.
So you want
Explain it.
construct argument validated by rational inferences. So you have got, for example, there is this argument at hand. You are debating with a person. Now, you don't want just to present your points from nowhere. You want to present your points from rational conclusions. After you conclude rationally, an inference is simply a conclusion that is made. So you get to think about this thing, you conclude rationally, thoughtfully, and then now you can be able to say, but no, I still stand on my point. What you are saying is wrong. Okay? Does it make sense?
Yeah. What are rational inferences?
Okay, rational. Rational means like when you're talking about rational, is something that is sensible. An inference is a conclusion. So you remember, you have a debate, but before you bring out your point, you make sure that it is a sensible conclusion. For example, you are talking about support. What causes poverty causes corruption, or corruption causes poverty. Before you get to say corruption causes poverty, you are going to make a sensible conclusion. After you get to think about this thing very much, you get to bring different perspectives and ideas, and then that's when you can argue for or against your point after making a rational inference or a sensible conclusion. Is that okay?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So remember, we are saying, what is logic? Logic are procedures and principles of reasoning. Okay, concerned with it, making a distinction between what is wrong reasoning and what is correct reasoning. But what is reasoning? So reasoning is just the process of making reliable judgment. Just the process of making any reliable judgment. That's what we call reasoning. So meaning that logic are procedures and principles involved with making reliable judgment. So you want to tell whether the judgment you've made is correct or wrong. So that is what? That is called logic. Now, a person who has got accurate information and sound concepts can begin to reason. When you've got accurate information and sound concepts, you can begin to reason. So logic cannot be used when it is based on faulty judgments. So judgments where you get not to think, you are trying to think, you don't think critically about something. So you can't use logic in such a way, because logic, you are using principles and always to say this is wrong reasoning and this is correct reasoning. So you can't use logic when it is based on what? Faulty judgment. You're making a judgment that is wrong, or a judgment that is baseless. So logical reasoning requires no explanation or proof beyond itself. You get that point? So logical reasoning requires no explanation or proof beyond itself. Okay, so when you have got this logical reasoning, or when you are a person who gets to reason logically, just reasoning logically by itself is proof on itself, or it is an explanation on itself. You don't require any proof whatsoever when you get to reason logically, because just the reasoning itself is proof. So that's the meaning of that statement. Okay, so now there are different types of reasoning, and you need to know this. There is inductive reasoning, there is deductive reasoning, there is causal reasoning. Okay, now what are these types of reasoning? If you start with inductive reasoning, it's the formulation of a conclusion based on observation, often considered as unreliable. So you just have this observation and you get to conclude, okay, because of the observation that is there. So that is what is called inductive reasoning. So inductive reasoning is a logical process in which multiple premises, or believed true or found true most of the time, are combined to get a specific conclusion. Inductive reasoning is often used in applications that involve predictions. Okay, most of predictions. That's why I are saying it is considered unreliable. It is observation of a conclusion based on observation, because this thing has been happening most of the times. So for you to make a conclusion about this thing that has happened now, you say you get to conclude because of what? Observation, like it has been happening. Okay. Now, when you're talking about deductive reasoning, it's the formulation of a conclusion based on previously known facts. Okay, previously known facts. So there's a difference between inductive and deductive, because this one is from the facts that we are known. But the other one is just observations. Most of the observations are going to deceive you, because something happened doesn't mean that it is the same thing when you've seen it now. Okay, so in inductive reasoning, for example, the first lipstick I put from my leg is red. The second lipstick I put from my bag is red. Therefore, all the lipsticks in my bag are red. You've seen that in that reasoning. That is called inductive reasoning. Okay, because I picked a red lipstick from my bag. I picked also a red lipstick, let's say, from my other bag. Like you've got a bag, you put your hand inside. Let me use balls, okay, or marbles. You put your hand inside, you get a red marble. You put your hand again, you get a red marble. You put your hand again, you get a red marble. And then you conclude that all the marbles in this bag are what? Are red. That is what we call inductive reasoning. It is just based on observation. It is not reliable, because it is just a matter of probability. Maybe you have got seven red marbles inside, and then you've got two blue ones, but you couldn't pick the blue ones because of the probability. Okay, the probability of picking blue ones is 2 out of 9. Wow, red ones is 7 out of 9. That's why I've been picking red ones. And you can't make a conclusion that all the marbles which are inside are what? uh, are read. Is that okay on inductive?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. Now, we are saying deductive reasoning is formulation of conclusion based on previously known facts. Okay. Deductive reasoning is a logical process which is a conclusion based on the concordance of multiple premises that are generally assumed to be true. Deductive reasoning is sometimes referred to as top down reasoning. Top down reasoning. Deductive reasoning relies on making logical premises and basing a conclusion around those premises. Okay. So, one of the most common types of deductive reasoning, of course, that's called syllogism now. That's not necessary anyway. Okay. So let's just get to differentiate inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning mostly. Inductive reasoning involves starting from specific premises and forming a general conclusion. So you are forming a general conclusion because you just started from somewhere. Remember, started from picking one marble, you picked another marble, and then you make a general conclusion. But deductive reasoning involves using general premises to form a conclusion. Okay, so they are more in opposite ways. Okay. I don't know what best example I can give when it comes to deductive reasoning, but we'll see if we can get one. So it is just formulation based on previously known facts, like from known facts. Now, when you're talking about causal reasoning, it is creates a link between entities without a common origin. Okay, these things don't have a common origin, but you get to formulate a what? A link between them. So causal reasoning, for example, identifying uh, okay, there is we call them relation and cause, or cause and effect. What can I give as an example? For example, you have got a phenomenon is you have got, let's say, A, you have got B and C. So A causes B, and then B causes C. So people can infer that A also causes C, okay? Because you've got A causing B, B causing A. So we're going to say A just direct causes what? Causes C. So you get to make a conclusion like that. It creates a link between entities without a common origin, cause and effect. Okay. For example, you can say smoking causes lung cancer. It is not about a particular smoker, but it states a special relationship exists between the property of smoking and the property of getting lung cancer. What example? Let me get a best example that I can use. Okay, I just hope this is making sense. I don't know an example that I can use. I'm trying to bring out something, but just think of this thing that have got a common effect. For example, you can say maybe sand causes flu, and flu causes maybe someone to die. And then you say because sand causes flu, a flu causes someone to die. So you say sand causes death. I think that's the best I can give. You get that kind of reasoning. So that is called causal reasoning. You have got a relationship between entities without a common origin. Because the sand caused the flu and the flu caused death, you can't say sand causes death. So there is no common origin between those entities. Are we getting there? Or you have got any
Yeah.
question?
No, I've gotten the point. Kindly repeat on this deductive reasoning. Try
Okay.
to give an example on deductive reasoning.
Okay. Let me find out. Let me think of something best that I can give on deductive reasoning. All right. So we are saying deductive reasoning is the formulation of conclusion based on previously known facts and considered as reliable. Now, for example, all dogs have got ears. Okay? All dogs have got ears. And then if you talk of, now you know that all dogs have got ears. And then you talk of, let's say, German Shepherd. So I'm going to conclude that a German Shepherd has got an ear. Why have you concluded that? Because a German Shepherd is also part of dogs. So you get to make that conclusion. Now, you consider this as reliable. All dogs have got ears. You therefore conclude German Shepherd has got what? Ears. Or all racing cars must go over 80 kilometers per hour. So you are going to say, if you know one type of car, that is a racing car also. If you say all racing cars must move over 80 kilometers per hour, and let's say you know maybe, I don't know, racing cars. Let's say you've got Lamborghini is a racing car. So you say Lamborghini is also going to move at 80 kilometers per hour. Why? Because you know that this is also a racing car. Okay? Christmas is always December 25th. So if you are on December 25th, you are going to say today is what? Christmas. So this is deductive reasoning based on formulation of conclusion based on previously known facts. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense for the Christmas.
Okay. So these are the types of reasoning. Inductive, you are making a conclusion based on observation, and it is mostly unreliable. For example, you are picking balls. The fact that every time bad things are happening for you doesn't mean you are unlucky. Okay. Deductive reasoning, formulation of a conclusion based on facts which have been known. Okay. All human beings have got teeth. Mwansa is going to have teeth because he's a human being. Okay. 12th August, let's say 12th March is Youth Day. Today is the 12th August, therefore it is the Youth Day. Causal reasoning creates a link between entities without a common cause. A causes B, B causes C, and then you conclude that A causes C. And mostly this is not going to be true, okay? Because the sand causes a flu causes death, doesn't mean that sand causes death. All right. Now we have got what we call reasoning fallacies. Well, you need to understand this. This is very interesting, and I saw this also came in last year's exam. Reasoning fallacies. Now, when you're talking about reasoning fallacies, well, the first thing to know is of course, we know reasoning. Reasoning is just being able to make a reliable judgment. Now, what are fallacies? Okay, what are fallacies? That is what you need to know. Now, fallacies are just errors in reasoning. Just the errors that you are going to find in reasoning, those are what we call fallacies. So, starting, we have got what we call fallacies. You need to know these examples of reasoning fallacies. Please know them. So we have got what we call false cause. You need to know this. What is false cause? So when there is a wrong assumption about the cause of an event because of a noticed relationship between an act and the event, you get to make a wrong assumption of the cause because there's a relationship between what? There's a relationship between act and the event. Okay, for example, many students who achieved 6 points in grade 12 study medicine. We know that this is true, right? Most of those who get 6 points get to go to for medicine. But you will not say you will study medicine if you make 6 points. That is not true. Okay? You will not study medicine when you make 6 points. Just that most of the people get to have 6 points, study medicine. So this is a false cause. That's an example of a false cause. If they give you an example, should be able to identify what kind of reasoning fallacy that is. Or you get to say that Walia comes to church just as the bell rings. So you say Walia's arrival at church causes the bell to ring. Like, for example, I'll give going to school. Okay, let's say you just passing through this road. Every time you pass through this road, you always find this guy. Okay, you always find this guy at this point. Every time you pass through, you always find this guy. So you can conclude that your passing on this road makes this guy come. But that is not true. That is a false cause. Okay, it might just be a coincidence. So it is not that you're passing causes this boy or this guy to be at this point. And that might just be a coincidence. So this is what we call a false cause. That is a reasoning fallacy or an error when you want to reason. So because of that, you might even get to reason wrongly. Okay, is that okay?
Yes.
You are sure?
Not sure about.
Okay, like false cause. You see, there are events which get to
Most
happen.
of the reason that the first point on top there is the one I wanted to get. The
Which one?
first point. When
What?
there is a wrong assumption about the cause of an event. Yeah,
Because
the
of a
same one.
noticed relationship between the act and the event. Okay,
So
like
these down here are examples
yes, these are
of this
examples.
explanation.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. We also have another reasoning fallacy, which is false analog. Now, false analog, it indicates that similarity in one aspect portends, okay, portends similarity in other aspects. That is false analog. For example, a false analog is a type of informal fallacy. It states that since item A and item B both have quality X in common, they must also have quality Y in common. Okay, because Joyce and Mwanza both are at Unza, then Joyce and Mwanza are in the same academic year. So that is a false analog. Okay, the similarity in one aspect contains similarity in another aspect. When two people are similar in one way, it doesn't mean that they are similar in the other way. Or two aspects are similar, then it doesn't mean that the other two aspects are going to be similar. All right. For example, you can say Joyce and Mary both drive trucks. Okay, both Joyce and Mary drive trucks, and so you say since Joyce is a doctor, then also Mary is a doctor because they both drive trucks. No, that is not true. So that is called a false analog. False analog. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Please know this. Know this. It's very important. Okay, and then we have got what we call false authority. The other name for false authority is expert fallacy. I think expert, you can get it very fast. Expert fallacy. I think this is the one which even came in last year's exam. Expert fallacy. So an expert fallacy is a fallacy or persuasive technique which assumes that the opinions of a recognized expert in a particular area extends to another area. Okay, it includes using an alleged authority. That is what we are saying, fourth authority, alleged authority as evidence in argument where the evidence is irrelevant to the current argument. For example, you have got lecturers at school who teach anatomy. Of course, anatomy is a study of the human body. Now, because this lecturer knows the human body, so when they see someone, for example, down, who is suffering from a certain disease, and they know that disease, they get to treat that person. And you tell them, why are you treating this person? They say, no, because I'm a lecturer of anatomy. I know about the human body. That is going to be bad. They don't have a certificate for treating humans. Their certificate is for teaching. So that is called a false authority or expert fallacy. Because you are an expert in a certain field, you think you can do also in another field. For example, because you are a biology teacher, it doesn't mean you can start treating people because you understand some biology. No. So that is expert fallacy or false authority. Are we good?
Yes.
Okay. The next one we have is called bandwagon. Bandwagon. Now, what is bandwagon? So, bandwagon fallacy depends on popular opinion. It depends just on popular opinion. Okay. So, for example, when it seems like everyone is adopting a certain fatty diet, people become more likely to try the diet themselves. So, because this thing is common, okay, because this thing is common, so everyone else wants to do it. That is what we call bandwagon. This thing is common, so everyone wants to try out. So, depends on popular opinion. Okay, you even want to make or you want to reason or make a decision depending on a popular opinion. That is what we call bandwagon. I don't know if that is okay.
Explain a bit. Okay, give an example. Just an example.
Okay. So people are more likely to vote for the candidate that they think is winning. Okay, fashion. Many people begin wearing a certain style of clothing as they see others adopt the same fashion. Have you gotten those two examples? When we're talking about elections, people are more likely to vote for the candidate they think is winning. Okay, because of what? Popular opinion. Even if you don't like this person, but because that person you think they are more likely to win, you get to vote also for them. Or you get to start putting on clothes because you've seen that this style of clothing is on a lot of people. That is bandwagon. Good. Is that okay now?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. Apart from that, we also have what we call ad hominem. Ad hominem. Now, what is ad hominem? So ad hominem is to invalidate an argument by attacking the writer's motive or a person. Okay. Invalidate an argument by attacking the writer's motive or a person. For example, a person telling you you are stupid, so I don't care what you have to say in response to hearing them present a well thought possession. Does that make sense? So a basic example of ad hominem argument is a person telling someone you are stupid, so I don't care what you have to say in response to hearing them present a well thought position. So like someone wants to say something and then because you believe they are stupid, so you tell them you are stupid, so I will not listen. Okay, I will not listen to what you want to say. That is to invalidate an argument by attacking a person's motive or attacking just a person themselves. Okay, what they want to say, you don't want to pay attention to it or don't want to listen to them. You get to invalidate it by attacking their motive or attacking their person. Okay. So ad hominem just means to the person. Just the word ad hominem means to the person in Latin. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
All right. So you need to get to understand that. You don't want to listen to people at times because they made a mistake in the past and you point back to that mistake which they made and say, that's why I'll not listen to you. So you get to invalidate what someone is going to say in an argument. Apart from that, you also have what we call haste generalization. Haste generalization. I think this one also came in the exam in for last year. So haste generalization reaches a conclusion without sufficient logic or justifiable evidence and often proceeds from the particular to the general. Example, a student concludes that smoking is a safe habit because her grandfather smoked and lived to be 94 years. That is haste generalization. So that haste means is more like just being fast. So you get to make a fast general conclusion about something. So that is called haste generalization. Well, I'm also going to be smoking because my grandfather smoked and lived to a ripe age. You think smoking is what caused that ripe age? I hope that is fine.
Mm, no.
Okay. So there is a certain habit that is happening, and people seem to survive it. Okay, people seem to survive it, and so you get to involve yourself in that because you think it is right. So get to generalize it. Someone is smoking, they don't die. You know that smoking kills, but someone gets to smoke, they don't die. So you say, okay, since this person smoked and didn't die, so I also do it, I will not die. Okay, you get to make that conclusion. Remember, reasoning is just getting to make a conclusion. So you get to make a conclusion because you get to generalize something that you saw. Because
Right.
yeah, because these store, they have money. So I'm also going to steal and have money, also not be caught because others were not caught. That is hence generalization. And then you have got what is called appeal to tradition. Appeal to tradition. So appeal to tradition is just a logical fallacy arising from dependence on the status quo, on things as they have always been. Okay, you get to depend only, like appeal to there are some traditions that have been there. One must study medicine because the parents and grandparents studied medicine. This one I saw also it in the last year's exam. So I'm referring to last year's because I think it's the first physical exam which was written in DME, and it will be physical from last year onwards. It was online because it was just recently introduced. That's why we'll not find a lot of past papers for this course. So appeal to tradition is just getting to do something because it has always been like that. Because my grandfather was a teacher, my father is a teacher, my mother is a teacher, I also want to be a teacher. That is appeal to tradition.